I don't think a young person in looking around at the world these days can possibly feel secure at all. Not of their person, not of their country. There's no cost argument for nuclear power. There's no safety argument for nuclear power. There's certainly no environmental argument, no matter how hard the pro-nuclears try to call it clean energy. To leave a vulnerability right in the midst of our population centers, how anyone can think that's a good idea. I'm Ace Hoffman, and I started concerning myself with nuclear when I was in my teens, which would be the 1960s. Soon after I started concerning myself, I got hold of some of the experts. I don't know what possessed me to walk up to John Hoffman and say, I've written some things about nuclear, would you read them? But he and I had a long relationship, and I also met a couple of other Manhattan Project scientists. Both of my parents were psychologists, so I saw two different psychological points of view of the world. So this allowed me to look at the world from a point of view which is more of a mentality sort of thing of why do people want this? Why do they want nuclear power? What do we have to do to fight it?
I specifically want to bring up your book, The Code Killers. What inspired you to write that book?
I had bladder cancer. Once I realized it was cancer, I started thinking about, all the things that I learned in my life and how am I going to pass that on? I had been going to a lot of public hearings on nuclear power at that time, and I still do. And so I wanted to create posters that had that information. So the first dozen pages or so were actually designed to be posters, and then I decided, no, I can't do that. It'll take up too much room, it's better as a book. So that's how it became a book.
If you were to come across now an individual who might have little knowledge about the dangers of radiation, what is something that would be important for them to know?
The biggest problem with nuclear power and nuclear energy, nuclear weapons, is that it produces hazardous waste that did not exist prior to the use of the weapon or the energy producing system. They create nuclear waste. They're not just using something and then having a hazard. They make the hazard.
There was a recent announcement in which the President of the United States proclaimed that the U.S. plans to resume nuclear testing. Do you have any comments or fears regarding this new development?
I'm seeing senators and Congress people say basically the same thing I would be saying, which is that the weapons have been tested over 1,000 times. I don't think we have to worry that we have weapons that don't work. We went to underground testing because the atmospheric testing was so poisonous that enough people, Linus Pauling and so forth, complained. Well, about 1 in 8 underground tests breached anyway. So underground tests are not very safe, and they leave an enormous amount of waste in the ground. And there's a lot of things that become radioactive because they're doing it in the ground rather than in the atmosphere. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for the future. And as a threat to start a nuclear war, it's the worst thing we could possibly do. Trump should be ashamed of himself.
I think, it's going to be the younger people and the younger generations who are really going to have to step up when it comes to nuclear testing. Speaking specifically to young people and students, what should we know in regards to the nuclear industry?
They've made no progress at all on nuclear waste in 60 years of trying. So you have the waste problem to start with. Then there's the proliferation problem, and there's the risk of war, of terrorism. You look at Zaporizhia in Ukraine. It's a constant threat of being destroyed by war. I don't think a young person in looking around at the world these days can possibly feel secure at all. Not of their person, not of their country. These are wild times that I've never seen before. To leave a vulnerability right in the midst of our population centers, how anyone can think that's a good idea when there's so many clean choices. There are so many other energy sources, and that's all it is. It's just a way to boil water. We don't even need to boil water for energy. There's no cost argument for nuclear power. There's no safety argument for nuclear power. There's certainly no environmental argument, no matter how hard the pro-nuclears try to call it clean energy. It's not clean when it A, leaves an enormous waste, and B, is subject to catastrophic failure.
Finally, I love that your book is a free resource that's available to anyone who might be interested in furthering their knowledge on the nuclear industry. How can one download your book?
You can go to my website, which is acehoffman.org. And on the left-hand side, there's a number of PDFs of different sizes. You can also order a copy, and I don't make any money from those. My wife and I just decided that we would put it at the lowest price that we could, which is $18 for an American order. And if I could give it away for free hard copies, I would.